Hey everyone, and welcome back to our digital laboratory, The Foundry by Forge College. Before we get started, if you want to explore more Web3 topics, definitely head over to forge.college and check out what we've got. Now, I'm so excited you're joining us for today's explainer because, well, today we are learning how to bend time. Just to give you a little context, this explainer is part of our Exploring Smart Contract Vulnerabilities module, which fits right into the Introduction to Smart Contract Security course of our broader Smart Contract Security track. Phew, that's a mouthful. But basically, remember in our last session, we were busy breaking math, detecting and exploiting integer overflows to bypass security? But today, we are stepping out of the math class and straight into the realm of logic shortcuts. Specifically, we're diving into timestamp dependency, experiments, and demonstrations. So grab your flex capacitors and let's jump right into this. Here's the quick game plan for today. First, bending time in Web3. Second, building the time gate. Third, executing the time jump. Fourth, logging reproducible evidence. And finally, wrapping up the experiment.
All right, section 1, bending time in Web3. Let's talk about manipulating time.
So in the real world, time just marches forward, right? We can't change it, no matter how much we might want to right before a deadline. But on the blockchain, time is literally just a variable. Think about the contrast here compared to our previous lesson. On the left, we've got integer overflows. Those are arithmetic flaws. You feed extreme numerical values into a contract, you force a wraparound, and boom, the math completely breaks. But over on the right side, timestamp dependencies are logic flaws. We aren't breaking the math this time, we're actually manipulating the environment's clock to trick a contract's gating logic. It's a totally different approach, and honestly, it's kind of mind-blowing.
Okay, moving right along to section 2, building the time gate. Let's look at a minimal contract. To actually test this out, we need a target. We're going to use a time gate contract that's locked down until a very specific deadline in the future. Now, the core of this whole issue revolves around a variable called block.timestamp. This represents the current block's time. Developers often treat this like it's some authoritative, completely immutable clock. But it's really not. Imagine a bouncer at a super exclusive club. The strict rule is no entry until midnight. But, plot twist, the bouncer is checking IDs using a wristwatch that he can secretly fast forward. Miners and local test validators actually have the power to shift this reported block time within certain bounds set by the protocol. Which brings us to the million-dollar question. Can we trick the contract into thinking it's the future? If that bouncer's rigged watch says it's midnight, does the heavy iron door open even if it's actually only 11 p.m. in the real world? Well, spoiler alert, yes, it absolutely does.
So let's do it. Section 3, executing the time jump. Time for our local test. Here is the exact step-by-step sequence we're going to use for this exploit. Step 1, we deploy our time gate contract with a deadline set, let's say exactly 1 hour into the future. Step 2, we immediately try to trigger the locked function. We fully expect it to revert and throw a not yet error. That just proves the gate is actually closed. Step 3, we pull off our sci-fi maneuver and run a command to manipulate the node's timestamp. And step 4, we call that trigger function again. Because the contract now firmly believes the hour has passed, the exploit succeeds. Boom, time travel.
Let's zoom in on step 3 for a second, because this is where the magic happens. Using RPC time control commands. This is how you literally bend time in your local environment. By using tools like Hardhat, we can send commands directly to our local node. The command's EVM set next block timestamp lets us tell a network, hey, make sure the very next block has this exact future timestamp. Then we just run EVM mine to force that block into existence. It is entirely deterministic. It is completely under our control. We don't have to sit around twiddling our thumbs for an hour waiting for the clock to tick. We just make it happen.
All right, section 4, reproducible evidence. Let's talk about recording those logs. Okay, so pulling off this heist in your local lab is awesome, but it's really only half the battle. If you're submitting this to a bug bounty program or a security triage team saying, trust me guys, it worked on my machine, just isn't gonna cut it. No way. You need rock-solid, hard evidence. Your lab report has to include these exact console logs. The initial timestamp to show where you started. The revert message to prove that the gate was, in fact, originally locked. The manipulated timestamp to prove your time jump actually worked. And finally, the exact state change, which in our case is a variable called privileged action done, flipping from false to true. Just take a look at how beautifully this data maps out the timeline of our exploit. We deploy at a timestamp ending in all zeros. The state is false. We make our first attempt at that exact same time, and bam, we get a revert.
Then comes the time jump. We force the timestamp exactly 3,600 seconds, which is exactly 1 hour, into the future. We run the trigger again, and the state flips to true. This clean, super technical chart is the exact reproducible evidence that security scanners and human analysts absolutely need to verify a timestamp dependency.
And that brings us to Section 5, wrapping up. Let's hit the conclusion.
If there is just one core principle I want you to take away from this entire explainer, it's this quote right here. Reproducibility matters as much as the exploit itself. I can't stress that enough. Time-based flaws are notoriously tricky because they rely heavily on environmental conditions. If your logs aren't crystal clear, your findings will just be dismissed as a fluke. Clear logs are literally the lifeblood of tools-driven analysis and professional smart contract auditing.
So I want to leave you with one final provocative question to chew on. How do these logic shortcuts, these sneaky, time-bending environmental hacks, stack up against the raw math manipulation of arithmetic flaws when we look at real-world smart contract hacks? Which one is actually more dangerous? Which one is harder to spot? Well, we are going to be answering exactly that in our next explainer on triage and risk comparison. Remember, to dive deeper into this subject and continue your Web3 education, be sure to visit Forge College. I've been your host from Forge College, and until next time, keep your logs clean and your timestamps flexible. Catch you later.